Okay, I'm going to try this again. For some reason I'm having some technical difficulties this morning, but that's okay. So go ahead and pause the video and try these bell work problems. Okay, a little bit of motivation to do these. I did them really quickly, so there's a chance I made a mistake. So if I did and you find it, let me know in the morning and I'll give you some bonus points. So anyway, there's the answers that I got really quickly and I did not double check myself. And here is the answers to your homework. If you want to go ahead and check those, you can pause the video, and we're going to jump right into the lesson today on percents. The objective is to solve percent problems using proportions, and this is something that you will use quite a bit in your life. I use it when I'm shopping. I use it just for all kinds of different things. We'll get into some problems where you can use this. So we represent percent by saying that A is P percent of B using the percent proportion below. So we have A over B equals P over 100. And in the past, I've taught it as is over of equals percent over 100. And this is called the percent proportion because it's set up as a proportion. So we say B is the base and A is a part of the base. So if we have the whole amount, that's the B, and then the A is the part of that amount. So for example, it says, what percent of 50 is 25? So is 25 is over of equals percent over 100. So we can cross multiply and divide, and we get 50%. And another way that you can think about this, the whole part, we're asking what percent of the whole part, which is 50, so that's where the whole bottom part, the whole base comes in, the 50, is 25. 25 is what part of that? So the part would be 25 of the whole, which is 50, and when we divide that out, we know that's 50%. And if you're more of a visual learner, you can look at this as, okay, this whole thing represents 50. So where does 25 fall at there? Well, it's exactly in the middle. So we know half of 100 is 50. Halfway between 0 and 100 would be 50%. Okay, so let's continue to use the percent proportion. It says, what percent of 56 is 42? So is over of equals percent over 100. We can cross multiply and divide. 4,200 divided by 56 is 75%. Once again, you can look at it as 42 is what part of 56, 56 being the whole amount. What percent of 90 is 54? You can think of it as is over of, or 54 is what part of the whole amount of 90? Equals x over 100 or p over 100, doesn't matter what variable you use. We can cross multiply and divide, and you will get 60%. Okay, another way that we can do this is by using the percent equation. You can represent A is P percent of B using the percent equation that is shown below. A is equal to the percentage times by B. And B cannot equal 0 once again. The reason we don't want B to equal 0 is because percent times 0 would just be 0. So it says what percent of 50 is 25? So we've got the percentage, we don't know it. Of means to multiply, so what percent of 50 is means equals is 25. Well, we can see in the equation to get the percent by itself, we would divide by 50 because it's being multiplied by 50. 25 divided by 50 is 0.5. So 0.5 equals P percent. But we know when we want it as a percentage, we want it as a whole number. So we're going to have to move that over 2 places. Remember, percent means to divide by 100. So we've got to move this over 2 places. Basically, we're timesing it by 100. So we get 50%. Once again, think about per means to divide. Cent, there are 100 cents in a dollar, or century is 100 years, so the prefix cent stands for 100. So percent means to divide by 100. Okay, so we're still going to use the equation. What percent of 40 is 2.5? So percent of means to multiply, of 40 is 2.5. To get the p by itself, I'm going to divide both sides by 40. So 2.5 divided by 40 is 0.0625. We want to move it over 2 places or multiply it by 100, and we get 6.25%. Pause the video and give this a try, and let's see what you get. And there it is. You should have gotten 75%. Shopping, my favorite kind of problem. It says a dress shirt that normally costs $38.50 is on sale for 30% off. What is the sale price of the shirt? Now you can think of this however you want. There's several different ways that you can work this problem. But when I think about the fact that it's 30% off, if 100% represents the total cost, 100% of the price is $38.50. But if I'm getting a 30% discount, then that means I'm only paying 70% of the original cost. So I want to know what is 70% of $38.50. And that's going to give me my new price. So 0.7 times $38.50 is $26.95. So my shirt is now going to cost $26.95. Now, if you don't like that method, another way that you could approach this problem is, okay, you say, well, it's 30% off. So what is 30% of $38.50? Well, that is, let's see here, $11.55. So that's how much of a discount I'm getting. So then I have to go back and take the original problem and subtract how much it's being discounted for, and I still get the same answer. But to me, it's easier, and let's look at this again here. Here we subtracted our percentages first and then multiplied and got the answer. Here we multiplied and then subtracted the discounted rate and got the new price. To me, it's a lot easier to say 100 subtract 30% and get the 70 than it is to subtract the $11.55 from $38.50. So it doesn't really matter which way you do it, as long as you can get the correct answer. But it is important to understand that if it's a 30% discount, then we are paying 70% of the cost. Okay, so a family sells a car to a dealership for 60% less than they paid for it. They paid $9,000 for the car. For what price did they sell the car? Go ahead and pause the video and give this a try. Okay, so I like to think of this as the 60% represents the discount. Okay, so then if the 60% represents that discount, then what does the 40% represent? Well, it represents the cost after the discount is applied. So an equation that we could use to figure this out is say, okay, X is 40% of 9,000. That's going to give me the new price. And the answer is, what'd you get? 36,000, hopefully, or 36,000, I'm sorry, $3,600. Let's see if that makes sense. The car was originally $9,000. They sold it to the dealership for 60% less. Well, we know 50% less would be half of that, so $4,500 or $4,500 would be 50%, and this is less than that. So that's good because they sold it for 60% less than what they paid. So they sold it for less than half price. So the dealership paid 40% of the cost, so they paid $3,600. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Sometimes we have to find the base. It says 125% of what number is 17.5. So we can do the is over of equals percent over 100, or we can say 125% of what number, we don't know the number, is means equals 17.5. So if I'm going to get x by itself, I'm going to divide both sides by the 125. But before I go to do that, I've got this percent sign in there, so I want to take care of that. I want to convert this from a number to the decimal. We know that 125% is the same as 125 divided by 100. So I just went ahead and converted it to get rid of that percent sign, and now I can divide both sides by 1.25, and that will give me the value for x. So x is equal to 14. And 25% of 14 is 17.5. And that makes sense that it would be more than, and 17.5 is bigger than 4 or 14 because it's 125%. So it's not just 100% of it, it's more than the original number. 30% of what number is 12.5? Once again, I want to convert this. 30% means 30 divided by 100, so that's 0.3. X equals 12.5. So if I divide both sides by 0.3, I get, oops, I didn't put my decimal. 12.5 divided by 0.3 is 41.6 repeating. So let's convert that. That would be 41 2/3%. Or not 2%, I'm sorry, 41 2/3 is the number that is 30%. So let me clarify that for a second. Question said 30% of what number is 12.5? So we would say 30% of 41 2/3 is 12.5 or 12.5. So a common application of percents is, why isn't my board catching up? Okay, there it is. A common application of percent kind of problems is simple interest, which is interest that you earn on the principal amount that's in an account. So for example, when you deposit money into your bank account, let's say you open a savings account and you keep putting money in that as you're getting older, the bank will give you a percentage each month for allowing them to hold on to your money, and that percentage that they give you is called simple interest. And let me tell you, they don't give you very much, but that's okay. It's better than nothing at all. So let's say that you invest $50 at a simple interest rate of 3.5% per year for 3 years. The interest you earn, interest is the I, is equal to $50 that you invested times the percentage, we just converted it to a decimal, so the 0.035, times the 3 years that you invested it. So in that 3 years, you earned a big whopping $5.25 in interest. Okay, so it's helpful to know some fraction equivalents for common percents. 1% is the same as 1 over 100, 5% is 1 over 20, 10% is 1 over 10, 20% is a fifth, 25% we know is a fourth, 33.3 repeating percent is a third, 50% is a half, 66.6 repeating is 2/3, and 75% is 3/4, and of course 100% is 1. So if you deposited $840 into a savings account that earns simple interest rate of 4.5% per year, and you want to keep this money in the account for 4 years, how much interest can you expect to earn? So you take the principal amount that you're depositing, that's $840, and the rate would be the 4.5%, so we know that's 0.045. Think back to the formula that we were talking about. I equals the principal amount times the rate times the time. If you multiply that out, you will get the amount, and that amount is $151.20. $151.20. See, does that make any sense in terms of this problem? Is that reasonable? If you're depositing $840, you're earning 4.5% per year. So does it make sense that in 4 years you would earn that amount of money? And the answer is yes. That makes pretty good sense. Okay, so just to summarize what we learned today, we talked about finding a percent. What percent of 6.3 is 3.5? So is over of, if we're doing the proportion, is what percent over 100? Or we could write it as the equation. What percent of means to multiply, so we've got the percent, we don't know, multiplied by 6.3 is 3.5. Okay, finding a part, what is 32% of 125? So we've got our percent, 0.32 of 125 is what amount? And if I'm doing the is over of, the is what I don't know. Of 125 equals what percent? We said 32%, so 32 over 100. Cross multiply and divide and solve. And sometimes we're finding the base. So 25% of, so we know the percent, 25 over 100. Of what number? We don't know. Is 11. So is over the of is what we don't know equals percent over 100. Or I can look at it as 25% of what number is 11. Hope you enjoyed this lesson. Please get the worksheet and answer as many of the questions as you can.